Welcome, my name is George Eason. I'm the Education Program Manager for the Wyoming Retirement System. This presentation is called the WS Deferred Compensation 457 Plan Investment Menu. We'll cover briefly the investment options that are available underneath the 457 program. So there are three levels of investments that we'll talk about. We'll talk about the investment options. We'll go over some fund overviews. It goes a little bit more in detail about the investments. We'll talk about some tools that are available to help, like sample portfolios, a risk tolerance quiz, and we'll talk about setting goals for a goal setting calculator. So in the 457 program, there are three levels of investments based on how much time, knowledge, skill, and experience that you have or want to have with your 457 investments. So level one is what we call it the do-it-for-me investors. And we'll go in detail on each one. Level two is for the people who want to do it themselves. And level three is for the highly knowledgeable investors through a self-directed brokerage account through TD Ameritrade. You have to meet certain requirements and sign some waivers if you want to do level three, and we'll discuss those. So level one, the do-it-for-me investors, are designed for the people who do not have the time, knowledge, skill, or experience to manage their own portfolio. You want to save, but you don't understand how investments work, or you just want somebody else to do it for you. So all you do with these is you pick a pre-mixed portfolio that most closely matches when you expect to retire. There are 10 portfolios. One's called the Life Path Index Retirement Fund. That's for somebody who's very close to retirement or already retired. And then they start in the year 2025 and they go up in 5-year increments. The way these are designed and managed is for you to pick the one portfolio that most closely matches when you expect to retire or when you expect to start receiving money from the plan. So let's say I was going to retire between the years, say 2043. I would pick the 2045 fund because that's the one that most closely matches. You only want to pick one of these portfolios. And the reason is all 10 portfolios have the same 7 investments. It's just the mix is different based on how soon or how far out before you're going to retire. And these are managed to glide to the part of the year in his name. In other words, if I start in the year 2060, it's going to be very aggressive now, but as it gets closer to 2060, it will automatically become more conservative to protect what it's earned. If you think you have the time, knowledge, skill, experience to manage your own portfolio, we offer 6 asset class funds. Each one of these are a specific area of the market. And all you do is mix and match between the 6 to build your own portfolio. Now, this does require a lot more time commitment and more knowledge to be successful at it. Read this like a speedometer or a risk meter. If you're on the left-hand side, you're not going real fast, but you should expect a high rate of return. As you go right, you increase your risk, but you can also increase your return potential. There's no guaranteed interest rate or performance. It's based on the underlying investments. Now, you have to kind of balance out risk versus return. What you don't want to do is take a high risk for a low return, and you cannot get a high return with a low risk. The lower risk you take, the lower return you should expect. Some people want their money protected, some want their money to grow. And you can see the asset classes fall in the line with cash alternatives being the most conservative, also having the less risk, with stocks having the highest risk, but they also have the highest return potential. So in level 2, one of our investments is called the WS Capital Preservation Fund. It used to be called the Stable Value Fund. This is a fund designed to protect the principal with some modest income potential. It's basically a very conservative investment, kind of like a super savings account or CD. You put your money in there, it grows slowly, predictably, but it's pretty safe. The next one we have is a WS Fixed Income Fund. It's basically a bond fund. So it takes slightly more risk than the Capital Preservation Fund, but less risk than a stock portfolio. And there are 3 underlying investments in this fund. So what you do is you pick the asset class, and we manage the investments in that asset class for you. Each one of these have a different investment management fee, and you can see for this fund it's 0.42%. The industrial average for a bond fund is about 0.51. The next investment is called a real asset fund. This fund is designed, or objective is long-term growth and income generation through investments in different asset types designed to help protect against inflation. So there's 5 underlying funds that's mixed and matched to make sure it kind of reaches the objective of protecting against inflation. The next fund we have is the WS Large Cap Fund. This fund's objective is large-term growth through investments in U.S.-based large companies. In other words, you get in your Ford truck, you drive to McDonald's, you buy a Pepsi on the way home. Those are all large companies. Most Americans like to invest in large companies because they understand what products they have. This fund has a very, very low management fee of 0.015%, where the average is at 0.21%. Now this is fund, the underlying investment is called the BlackRock Equity Index Fund. An index fund matches an index, so it's very low fees because it's what we call a passive fund. So all it does, it manages or mirrors an index. The next fund we have is the WS International Equity Fund. Its objective is long-term growth through investments in foreign-based companies. Now, just because it's a foreign-based company doesn't mean that you don't know their products. Like I like to use Hershey's chocolate versus Nestle's chocolate. Hershey's is a U.S. company, Nestle's is not. So that would be a foreign-based company. And again, there are 4 underlying funds that we can mix and match and change to make sure it meets its objective. The investment management fee for this one is 0.56 with the average of 0.81. And then the last fund we have is a WS Small Mid Cap Fund. It's basically long-term growth investments in U.S.-based small and mid-sized capitalization companies. There are 3 underlying investments, and again, you can see the fees of 0.56, and the average is 0.81, so most of our fees are below the average. Again, we can change the underlying funds. What you're doing is you're picking the asset class. So if you want to be in small mid-cap funds, this will be the fund. If you want to be in large-cap funds, the large-cap fund would be the fund that you would be in. Now, for level 2 investors, we do have some tools that help you understand how to build portfolios and when to make changes. The one thing you have to know is how much risk you're comfortable with taking. So we have a risk tolerance quiz that will give you a general idea if you're comfortable taking risk and how much. There are some sample portfolios that we have that gives you a general idea of how to build portfolios, but please do not copy our sample portfolios. But you have to decide what risk you're comfortable with and build a portfolio based on that. The other tools we have a form called the Investment Option at a Glance. It's a form that's updated on our website monthly. It goes over the performance of the investments, and we do put it in our quarterly statements. We also have a goal setting worksheet that lets you kind of figure out, are you on track to have enough money to retirement? It takes in consideration your pension, Social Security, and your investment that you have. Again, these tools are available on the website, or you can contact us if you need more help. For level 3, this is for highly knowledgeable investors. It's basically still in the 457 program. But if you have more than $2,500 in one of the core funds, level 1 or level 2, you can start transferring money to level 3 or the self-directed brokerage account through TD Ameritrade and invest in over 2,000 different mutual funds. But if you want to do this, you have to sign a waiver stating that you understand what you're doing, and we cannot help you with any of the investment options or fees or performance in the TD Ameritrade brokerage account. You're saying that you know what you're doing. So what you would have to do again is keep $2,500 in a core fund that we have, and you can transfer money over and invest in those type of funds. We do not offer individual investments, individual bonds or individual stocks. Everything that's offered on this platform are mutual funds. And again, there is an additional fee above and beyond what we talked about already if you want to participate in the self-directed brokerage account. So if you have questions on your 457, the best place to do is call 777-3325. Somebody in the 457 department can help answer any questions you have. Or if you have general questions, you can always contact a retirement educator at 777-7691 and select option 5. Or you can visit the retirement website at retirement.wyo.gov. And then if you want to go to the 457 program from there, all you do is click on our login button. The middle tab will come up that will say 457. Click on that and it will take you to the login page of the 457 program. You can also email us if you have any questions at 457pln It's the 457 plan without the A at wyo.gov. Again, we cannot give tax, legal, or investment advice. We can provide education and guidance, but we cannot give advice. And all of our investments, because they're investments, there are no guaranteed performance on any of the funds that we offer. That's why you need to understand the risk and the fees associated with all of the performances that we have to make sure you're making highly knowledgeable decisions. Thank you and have a good day.